Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by KringlesChristmas.com, home of Comet's Choice premium reindeer food.
Reindeer tested?
Santa approved.
Tonight we have a special treat just for you.
We're going to be narrating the North Pole's New Year adventure.
Get those cocoa mugs ready and settle in.
This is a story best enjoyed by the fireside.
Perfect for the whole family.
Chapter 1.
A frosty countdown begins.
The North Pole was more alive than ever.
Snowfall glittered like powdered diamonds under the twinkling lights strung between candy cane lampposts.
The village square bustled with preparations as elves, reindeer, and snowmen alike worked tirelessly to ensure the New Year's Eve celebration would be the grandest one yet.
You know, it really does paint a picture of joyful chaos, doesn't it? It's not just another New Year's Eve at the North Pole.
Exactly. Every year, the celebration marked not just the end of the calendar, but the beginning of another cycle of magic, wonder, and cheer that Santa and his helpers brought to the world.
For the North Pole, this night wasn't merely an occasion.
It was a tradition steeped in joy, unity, and hope for brighter days.
Now let's meet our first character, shall we?
Flurry woke early, the frost on his window, forming patterns that looked like sparkling fireworks.
The snowman hopped out of bed
If hopping could describe the wobbly shuffle of his round, snowy body.
and eagerly donned his favorite scarf, a cheerful striped one gifted to him by Sparkle last year.
Big day today.
He said to himself, adjusting his carrot nose in the mirror.
I've got a speech to practice decorations to help with, and maybe even some glitter cannon fun.
The glitter cannon.
It seems Flurry has a taste for the spectacular.
He certainly does. Flurry loved everything about New Year's Eve, but this year was special.
For the first time, he had a role in the festivities.
Announcing the new year wasn't just any job.
It was a position of honor, one that would place him at the heart of the celebration.
Talk about pressure. But also, what an amazing opportunity for a young snowman like Flurry.
He waddled out of his cozy snowman hut and into the frosty village square, which was already alive with activity.
The air hummed with the sound of hammering, jingling bells and the occasional burst of laughter as elves worked together to hang lanterns, polish ornaments, and test various magical devices.
Speaking of magical places, let's head over to Santa's workshop.
Santa's workshop was a hive of organized chaos.
It was said that no other place in the world could match its enchantment.
The towering structure of gingerbread walls and candy cane columns was draped in festive garlands that twinkled like stars.
Just imagine the aroma of gingerbread and peppermint filling the air.
Inside, a sprawling network of conveyor belts carried everything from sparkling decorations to oversized fireworks.
And at the heart of it all, none other than Sparkle, of course.
Sparkle stood at the heart of it all, clipboard in hand, and her emerald hat tipped at a jaunty angle.
That emerald hat is practically her trademark. She had been in charge of the New Year's Eve preparations for over a century, and she took her role seriously.
Around her, elves buzzed like bees, each carrying out a specific task under her watchful eye.
Keep those lanterns symmetrical.
Sparkle called out to a group of elves hanging star-shaped lights from the rafters.
And someone tell Jingle that we need the glitter cannon recalibrated by noon.
Sounds like things are getting down to the wire. And speaking of Jingle...
Jingle, a wiry elf with perpetually twitching ears, looked up from his workbench.
It's almost ready, but we're still waiting for the last shipment of stardust from the ice crystal forest.
The ice crystal forest. I can almost hear the magical chimes of ice crystals just thinking about it.
Sparkle, ever the efficient one, didn't miss a beat.
Then go fetch it yourself.
She replied.
We don't have time to wait.
I have a feeling that Jingle is used to Sparkle's no-nonsense approach.
Meanwhile, Flurry waddled into the workshop, his coal-black eyes wide with wonder.
It seems even for those who live at the North Pole, the wonder never fades. He had been inside Santa's workshop countless times, but it never ceased to amaze him.
The rows of brightly colored tools, the stacks of shimmering materials, and the smell of peppermint-infused hot cocoa made the space feel like a dream brought to life.
Truly, Santa's workshop is a place where dreams take flight. Sparkle.
Flurry called out, waving a stick arm.
I'm here to help.
Sparkle, however, glanced up from her clipboard, her expression a mix of amusement and exasperation.
I wonder if this is a common occurrence with Flurry.
If by help you mean causing another glitter explosion, then no thank you.
Flurry, not easily deterred, grinned sheepishly.
Come on, that was one time.
One time too many, perhaps.
Sparkle sighed, but you could tell there was a fondness beneath the exasperation.
After all, who can resist a snowman's enthusiasm?
All right, Flurry.
Sparkle said, motioning for him to follow.
If you're so eager, you can assist Jingle with the glitter cannon.
But don't touch anything without permission.
That seems like a very important instruction.
Got it.
Flurry saluted, promptly losing one of his arms in the process.
Oh dear. I have a feeling that might be foreshadowing something.
He quickly reattached it and scampered over to Jingle.
Now, about this glitter cannon.
The glitter cannon was a marvel of magical engineering. Standing over 10 feet tall, it resembled a giant peppermint-striped telescope with golden nozzles and shimmering gears.
Its purpose was to launch a cloud of glittering snowflakes into the sky at the stroke of midnight, creating a dazzling spectacle visible for miles around.
It sounds truly breathtaking.
Jingle was busy tinkering with the cannon's main mechanism when Flurry arrived.
Should I help?
The snowman asked eagerly.
Always eager to be involved, that's Flurry.
Sure.
Jingle replied, handing him a wrench.
Just tighten that bolt over there.
But whatever you do, don't touch the lever.
I sense a pattern emerging here.
Don't touch the lever.
Flurry repeated with mock seriousness.
Got it.
Oh, Flurry, if only you knew. Flurry began tightening the bolt, but his curiosity quickly got the better of him.
The lever with its shiny golden handle seemed to beckon him.
You can practically feel the temptation, can't you? Surely one little pull wouldn't hurt.
K-boom.
I think we all saw that coming. Before Jingle could stop him, Flurry yanked the lever.
The cannon roared to life, sending a cloud of glittering snowflakes shooting into the workshop. I bet that was quite a sight.
For a moment, the room was bathed in a sparkling silver haze.
Then the glitter began to settle.
On the decorations, the tools, and the increasingly unimpressed face of Sparkle.
Flurry.
Sparkle shouted, her voice echoing through the workshop.
The elves burst into laughter, their giggles bouncing off the walls.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall in that workshop.
Flurry shrugged innocently.
I was just testing it.
Sparkle, ever the pragmatist, pinched the bridge of her nose, a gesture that had become all too familiar when dealing with Flurry.
If you want to help, maybe you should focus on your New Year's speech instead.
Back to the drawing board for Flurry. But at least his enthusiasm is appreciated, right?
Flurry's face lit up.
You mean it. I get to announce the new year.
The excitement is contagious.
Yes,
Sparkle replied, brushing glitter off her hat.
but you'll need to practice.
Loud and clear, Flurry.
Everyone will be listening.
No pressure, Flurry. Now let's shift scenes for a moment, shall we?
While Flurry practiced his speech, the reindeer team was hard at work on the snowy runway.
Dasher and Dancer led the drills, their hooves pounding against the packed snow in perfect unison.
Behind them, the younger reindeer struggled to keep up their bells jingling erratically.
It's quite a sight, isn't it? The seasoned veterans guiding the next generation.
Higher leaps Comet,
Dasher barked, his voice booming across the training ground.
and Blizzard tucked those wings in.
Oh, Blizzard.
It seems like every team has its rookie who's still finding their footing.
Blizzard, the youngest member of the team, flapped his small wings awkwardly before tripping over his own hooves.
He tumbled headfirst into a snowbank, his little bell emitting a pitiful jingle.
But even the most experienced flyers had to start somewhere, right? It's all part of the journey.
Exactly.
Dancer, always the kind soul, trotted over, her kind eyes twinkling.
Don't worry, Blizzard.
She said,
You're doing great. Just remember to keep your movements smooth and controlled.
wise words from Dancer.
Blizzard nodded his cheeks, glowing with determination.
He was eager to prove himself, but the pressure of keeping up with the older reindeer often left him feeling overwhelmed.
It's a relatable feeling, isn't it? Striving for excellence when you're surrounded by those who seem so much more accomplished.
Absolutely. But as we've seen, the North Pole is all about support and encouragement.
Nearby, Flurry watched the training session with admiration. He had always been fascinated by the reindeer's grace and speed, and he couldn't help but cheer when Blizzard managed to pull off a perfect leap.
It's heartwarming to see Flurry's genuine support for Blizzard.
You've got this, Blizzard!
Flurry called out, waving a stick arm.
And just like that, Blizzard's confidence got a boost.
He grinned, his confidence bolstered by the encouragement.
As the day wore on, the villagers turned their attention to decorating the square.
Star-shaped lanterns hummed from every lamppost, casting warm golden light across the snow.
Ice sculptures of snowmen, reindeer, and elves lined the pathways, their frosty surfaces reflecting the twinkling lights.
It sounds absolutely magical.
Flurry wandered through the square, marveling at the transformation.
He stopped in front of a particularly intricate sculpture.
A towering depiction of Santa's sleigh surrounded by reindeer mid-flight.
It's as though the spirit of Christmas is frozen in time.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Sparkle said, appearing beside him.
Sparkle always popping up at just the right moment.
Flurry nodded.
It's gonna be perfect.
But of course, no good story goes without a bit of a twist, does it?
Sparkle smiled, but her expression quickly turned serious.
We've got a problem.
She said,
The glitter cannon's main mechanism might be damaged from the earlier mishap.
if we don't fix it, there won't be any glitter for the countdown.
Oh no. What will they do?
This is a real dilemma. Flurry's heart sank.
The glitter cannon was the centerpiece of the celebration, and without it, the magic of the New Year's Eve countdown would be lost.
It seems Flurry's little test might have some bigger consequences.
But what will he do?
Can I help?
Flurry asked, his voice tinged with determination.
It seems our snowman friend is ready to step up and take responsibility. But will Sparkle trust him after the earlier incident?
Sparkle hesitated, then nodded.
We'll need all the help we can get.
She said.
But this time, no pulling levers without permission.
I wonder if Flurry can keep his curiosity in check this time.
As the evening deepened, the square began to glow with an ethereal light.
The lanterns, the ice sculptures, and the shimmering snow combined to create a scene straight out of a dream.
Villagers gathered around the stage where Flurry stood nervously clutching his candy cane microphone.
It's showtime, but will Flurry be able to overcome his nerves and deliver a memorable countdown?
Ladies and gentlemen,
He began, his voice quavering slightly.
welcome to the most magical New Year's Eve the North Pole has ever seen.
And with that, the celebration is officially underway.
The crowd erupted into cheers, their excitement filling the air.
Flurry felt a swell of pride in his snowy chest.
For the first time, he truly felt like he belonged.
Ah, that's a heartwarming moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. But, as we know, every good story has its twists and turns.
Let's see what adventures await in Chapter 2 right after this quick word from our sponsor.
Remember to get your Comet's Choice reindeer food at cometschoice.com. Welcome back to the deep dive. We left off with Flurry basking in the glow of the opening ceremonies. You know, that moment really resonated with me, that feeling of belonging, of contributing to something bigger than yourself. It's something we all crave, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it's a theme that runs throughout this story. But as we know, things at the North Pole are rarely calm for long.
Chapter 2, The Lost Reindeer.
The North Pole never rested, not even after the whirlwind of Christmas. As the village buzzed with New Year's Eve preparations, there was a renewed energy in the air, one fueled by laughter, hope, and the promise of brighter days.
Yet even in this magical place, moments of concern could arise. Moments like today.
The announcement rang out sharply across the bustling square, cutting through the merry sounds of hammering, jingling bells and cheerful chatter.
Blizzard is missing.
Jingle, the excitable elf with twitching ears, had climbed atop a stack of candy cane crates to spread the word. His small frame quivered with worry, and the silver bell on his hat jingled as he scanned the crowd.
The author does a great job of building tension here. You can practically feel the collective gasp of the villagers.
You're right. The announcement caused an immediate ripple of unease. The elves paused in their decorating reindeer training, came to a halt, and even the usually unflappable talking snowman choir fell silent. Blizzard wasn't just any reindeer. At just 2 seasons old, he was the youngest member of Santa's team, having been chosen for his boundless energy and unyielding determination despite his clumsiness.
I love how the author uses Blizzard to symbolize potential. He's not perfect, he makes mistakes, but he has this unyielding spirit. It's a powerful message for young readers, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. For many in the North Pole, Blizzard represented the magic of possibility. A reminder that even the smallest and least experienced among them had the potential for greatness. Santa himself emerged from the grand doors of his workshop, his imposing figure silhouetted against the golden glow within. His face, normally light with jolly cheer, was now etched with concern.
My dear friends,
He began, his voice resonating across the square.
our young Blizzard has wandered off. Likely his curiosity got the better of him as it often does. But the North Pole's wilderness can be treacherous, and time is of the essence.
Sparkle stepped forward, her emerald hat tipped purposefully.
We'll find him.
She declared, gripping her clipboard as if it were a shield.
No one gets left behind in the North Pole.
You know, Sparkle's character arc is fascinating. She starts off as this strict, no-nonsense figure, but throughout the story we see her softer side emerge. It adds a layer of complexity that I think older readers can appreciate.
I agree. And it speaks to the theme of community that we were discussing earlier.
Teams quickly formed. The reindeer flew into the air, their sleigh bells jingling faintly as they split off in search formations. Groups of elves set out in every direction, some heading toward the frozen riverbanks, others toward the snowy hills. Flurry the Snowman, determined to help, bounded up to Sparkle.
I'm coming with you.
He declared, his stick arms raised high in determination.
Sparkle hesitated.
Flurry, this isn't just another adventure. We're heading toward the ice crystal forest. It's not safe.
All the more reason you'll need me.
Flurry said, puffing out his snowy chest.
Blizzard's my friend. I can't let him down.
Sparkle sighed, but knew arguing with Flurry was futile.
Fine.
She said, handing him a smaller lantern. But stick close and don't wander off. You know, this reminds me of the classic hero's journey. Flurry is stepping out of his comfort zone, facing his fears and proving his loyalty. It's a timeless archetype that resonates across cultures and generations.
It is. And it's executed so well here.
As they left the safety of the village, the landscape transformed. The glittering streets of the North Pole faded behind them, replaced by vast expanses of untouched snow that sparkled under the starlight. The air was colder here, biting and sharp, but the beauty of the scene was undeniable.
The author's descriptions are so vivid, aren't they? You can practically feel the crunch of the snow under your boots and see the shimmer of the aurora borealis.
Snow-covered hills rolled endlessly, their pristine surfaces reflecting the hues of the aurora that danced above. Flurry waddled beside Sparkle, his lantern bobbing with each step.
I've heard stories about the ice crystal forest.
And he said, his voice tinged with both excitement and apprehension.
They say it's alive, that the trees can whisper and move.
Sparkle nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the terrain.
It's true. The forest is enchanted. It can be a place of wonder or danger, depending on how you treat it.
They followed a faint trail of hoofprints in the snow, the marks zigzagging as if Blizzard had been running in panic. Sparkle stopped occasionally to examine them more closely, her face a mask of concentration.
The tracks are fresh,
she murmured.
He can't be far.
But the farther they ventured, the more erratic the trail became. Flurry couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The wind seemed to whisper through the trees, carrying faint voices that sent shivers down his snowy spine. The ice crystal forest loomed ahead like a frozen cathedral, its towering trees made entirely of ice.
Their branches heady with frost sparkled in the moonlight, casting an otherworldly glow. The air here was eerily still, and the sound of their footsteps seemed amplified in the silence.
Stay close,
Sparkle said, gripping her lantern tightly.
The forest has a way of confusing travelers.
Flurry nodded, his coal eyes wide as he took in the sight. The forest was breathtakingly beautiful, but there was an underlying tension in its stillness, as if the trees were watching their every move.
They pressed deeper into the forest, following the faint trail of hoofprints. Occasionally, they heard the soft jingle of a bell, distant and fleeting.
That's him.
Flurry exclaimed, his voice echoing.
We're close. But just as they quickened their pace, the trail abruptly disappeared. The hoofprints ended at the base of a particularly large tree, its frozen roots twisting like the tendrils of a spell.
Now what?
Flurry asked, his shoulders sagging. Before Sparkle could answer, a deep, resonant voice echoed through the clearing.
Who dares to enter the ice crystal forest?
I love the introduction of the Forest Guardian. It adds another layer of mystery and danger to the story. It's almost like a classic fairy tale with a magical being guarding the entrance to a hidden world.
It is.
Flurry jumped, nearly dropping his lantern. From the shadows emerged a towering snowman, his icy blue eyes glowing faintly. Unlike Flurry, this snowman was thin and elongated, his branches twisted in sharp-like claws.
I am the guardian of the forest,
The snowman declared.
and no one passes through without proving their worth.
We're looking for our friend,
Sparkle said firmly.
a young reindeer named Blizzard. Have you seen him?
The guardian tilted his head, studying them.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But the forest does not give up its secrets freely. To proceed, you must solve a riddle.
Why does everything in the North Pole love riddles?
Flurry muttered under his breath.
This part made me chuckle. It's a bit of comic relief that breaks up the tension and adds a touch of humor to the story.
You're right. It's a clever way to acknowledge the prevalence of riddles in fairy tales and fantasy stories.
The guardian raised a branch-like arm, his voice echoing with an eerie melody.
Here is your riddle. I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. What am I?
Flurry tapped his chin, his coal eyes narrowing in thought.
Something that grows but isn't alive.
It's a fire.
Sparkle said confidently.
A fire needs air to grow.
The guardian nodded, his expression unreadable.
You are correct. Follow the light and you will find what you seek. Before they could ask what he meant, the guardian melted into a puddle of water, leaving them alone once more.
They pressed on their path, now illuminated by Sparkle's lantern, which seemed to glow brighter with each step. Soon, the faint jingle of a bell grew louder, leading them to a small clearing.
Blizzard!
Flurry cried, rushing forward. The young reindeer was tangled in a patch of glowing, enchanted vines. The magical tendrils crackled softly, their energy holding him fast. Blizzard's small bell jingled as he struggled, his wide eyes filling with relief at the sight of his friends.
Hang on, buddy.
Flurry said, examining the vines.
We'll get you out,
Careful.
Firkle warned.
These vines react to force. We'll have to untangle him slowly. Using Sparkle's lantern to weaken the enchantment, they worked together to free Blizzard. It was delicate, painstaking work, but eventually the last vine fell away. Blizzard nuzzled them gratefully.
I'm sorry.
He said, his voice small.
I just wanted to prove I could be brave like the others.
Flurry placed a reassuring branch on his shoulder.
You are brave, Blizzard. But being brave doesn't mean going it alone. We're a team, and teams stick together.
Blizzard nodded, his confidence returning. The trek back to the village was far less tense. Blizzard pranced happily between Sparkle and Flurry, his earlier fear replaced with joy. The sight of the North Pole's glowing lights in the distance filled them with warmth.
When they returned, the villagers erupted into cheers. Santa knelt to embrace Blizzard, his smile returning.
"Welcome home, my boy,"
He said warmly.
Blizzard beamed his chest, puffing with pride.
I'll be ready for the New Year's Eve flight, he declared. That night, the village celebrated their safe return with a feast. Flurry reflected on the day's events, grateful for the bonds of friendship that made the North Pole so special. Chapter 3, The Talking Snowman Choir. The North Pole shimmered with the kind of light only a perfect winter morning could create. The snow wasn't just white, it was dazzling, a blanket of stars scattered across the ground.
Icicles hung like crystal daggers from rooftops, catching the first rays of the golden sun. The village square, the heart of the North Pole, was alive with sound bells. Jingled hammers clanged, and the excited chatter of elves filled the crisp air as they darted from one task to another.
But one sound rose above the rest, clear and enchanting, the Talking Snowman Choir.
Positioned in a semicircle near the ornate fountain, the choir rehearsed their opening number for the New Year's Eve extravaganza. Their voices, a mix of deep rumbles, lilting melodies, and high-pitched trills, blended together in a harmony so pure it made the snowflakes pirouette in the air.
You know, I love how the author uses sensory details to bring the story to life. You can practically hear the music, see the swirling snowflakes, and feel the crisp winter air.
Me too. It's as if you're transported right into the heart of the North Pole. The choir was magical not just because of their sound, but because each snowman brought something uniquely their own.
At the head of the group stood Frostina, the choir's illustrious leader.
Her silver scarf shimmered in the sunlight, a beacon of elegance. Her every move was graceful, her branch arms conducting the choir with precision. She wasn't just leading them, she was the music itself, every motion filled with purpose.
To her right was Coalbeard, the gruff bass snowman, whose deep voice reverberated like thunder rolling across an icy tundra.
His coal eyes gleamed as he leaned into the low notes, his massive coal-button vest straining slightly with each hearty rumble.
Twinkle, the youngest and most excitable member of the choir, was a sharp contrast.
Her pink scarf flapped wildly as she hopped in place, her high-pitched voice sparkling above the harmony like the first twinkle of starlight.
She sang with her entire snow body wobbling enthusiastically to the rhythm.
As the choir reached the climax of their song, Frostina raised her stick arms, signaling the final note.
It soared into the sky, the sound shimmering like light bouncing off a frozen lake. The song ended, and for a moment even the bustling elves paused, letting the magic settle in the air.
Good work, everyone.
Frostina said, her voice calm but authoritative.
Coalbeard, let the final note linger longer next time. Twinkle, careful with your pacing on the bridge. And remember, our goal is not to impress, it's to uplift.
Yes, ma'am.
Twinkle chirped, her scarf fluttering as she saluted. From his spot at the edge of the square, Flurry shuffled nervously. He had been dreaming of joining the Talking Snowman Choir for as long as he could remember.
He sang all the time while building snow castles, while helping elves carry decorations, even while practicing his New Year's speech. But standing here watching the choir in action, his confidence wavered.
It's amazing.
He muttered to himself, his stick arms drooping slightly.
What if I'm not good enough?
As he debated whether to step forward, Twinkle noticed him and waved enthusiastically.
Hey, Flurry, don't just stand there, come over and say hi.
Flurry hesitated, but the other snowmen had already turned to look at him. Frostina tilted her head, her piercing blue eyes appraising him with a mix of curiosity and amusement.
You're Flurry, aren't you?
She asked.
The snowman who helped save Blizzard.
Flurry nodded, his snowy cheeks glowing faintly.
That's me.
What brings you here?
Frostina continued, her tone warm but inquisitive.
I was wondering if I could maybe join the choir.
Flurry stammered, twisting his scarf nervously. The choir fell silent, their coal eyes fixed on him. Coalbeard let out a low chuckle that sounded like a rumbling avalanche.
You sing. Have you got pipes, lad?
Well, I love singing.
Flurry admitted.
And I'm really loud. People tell me that all the time.
Loud isn't the same as musical.
Faustina said, though, there was a glimmer of kindness in her eyes. But everyone starts somewhere. Let's hear what you've got. The snowman formed a loose circle, leaving a space in the center for Flurry. Twinkle gave him an encouraging thumbs up, her scarf bouncing as she nodded excitedly.
Sing the opening line of Aurora's Glow.
Faustina instructed, motioning for him to begin. Flurry gulped, his stick arms trembling slightly as he stepped forward. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. His voice started strong, but quickly wavered. By the second line, he was off-key, and by the end of the verse, he was flat. His final note fizzled out like a damp sparkler.
When he opened his eyes, the choir was silent. Coalbeard scratched his chin thoughtfully, his expression caught between amusement and sympathy.
Wow.
He set his voice a rumbling drawl.
He's got enthusiasm.
Twinkle hopped over to Flurry's side, her coal-button eyes sparkling.
Don't worry, that was great for a first try. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Flurry's snowy shoulders sagged.
I'm sorry. Guess I'm not good enough.
Nonsense.
Faustina said firmly.
Singing isn't just about hitting the right notes, it's about heart. Let's start with the basics. Faustina led Flurry to a quieter part of the square away from the others. Snowflakes swirled gently around them as she began his lesson.
Your voice is like snow.
She explained.
It can be light and soft or firm and steady. But no matter what, it needs a solid foundation that starts with breathing.
She demonstrated inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly, her movements fluid and controlled. Flurry mimicked her, his snowy chest rising and falling with each breath. At first, his movements were jerky, but under Faustina's guidance, he began to find a rhythm.
Good,
She said.
Now let's work on tone. Try this skill.
She sang a series of notes, her voice gliding effortlessly from low to high. Flurry followed his tone shaky, but improving with each attempt. Faustina corrected him gently, her patience unwavering.
Better.
She...
Remember, singing isn't just about the notes, it's about connecting with the music. Let it flow through you.
As the day wore on, Flurry's confidence grew. Faustina's lessons were challenging but rewarding, and each success, no matter how small, filled him with a sense of accomplishment. By mid-afternoon, he was singing simple melodies with a steadiness that surprised even himself.
Twinkle joined them during a break, her pink scarf trailing behind her like a cheerful banner.
You're doing amazing,
She said, plopping down beside Flurry.
I remember my first rehearsal. I was so nervous I squeaked like a rubber duck.
Flurry chuckled, his snowy cheeks glowing faintly.
Thanks, Twinkle.
Yeah.
I still feel like I've got a long way to go.
It's not about being perfect.
Twinkle said with a grin.
It's about loving what you do, and you've got that part down. That evening, Faustina invited Flurry to join the full choir for a practice session. The square was bathed in the golden light of lanterns, their glow casting long shadows across the snow. The northern lights rippled overhead, painting the sky with hues of green and purple.
The choir began to sing their voices, blending into a melody that seemed to dance with the aurora above. Flurry listened intently, his stick arms trembling slightly as he waited for his cue. When the moment came, he took a deep breath and joined in.
At first, his notes were timid, his voice barely audible above the others. But as the song progressed, he found his place, his voice weaving into the harmony like a thread in a tapestry. By the end of the song, he was singing with confidence, his tone clear and steady.
When the final note faded into the frosty air, the choir erupted into cheers. Twinkle bounced up and down, her scarf flying wildly.
You did it, Flurry. You're one of us now.
As Flurry looked around at his new friends, his snowy heart swelled with pride. The North Pole had always been magical, but now standing among the talking snowman choir, he felt like he was part of that magic in a way he had never imagined.
Faustina placed a branch arm on his shoulder, her eyes sparkling.
You've come a long way,
She said.
Tomorrow night you'll show everyone what you're capable of.
Flurry smiled, his cheeks glowing as he looked up at the dancing northern lights. He had found his voice and his place in the heart of the North Pole. It's a beautiful moment of transformation, wouldn't you say?
It really is. It highlights the power of perseverance and the importance of finding your tribe, your community, where you can express yourself freely and be accepted for who you are. But as we know, with every triumph, a new challenge often awaits. And on that note, we'll take a short break to hear a word from our sponsor.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We left off with Flurry finding his voice and his place in the Talking Snowman Choir. It's a powerful reminder that even in a world of magic and wonder, the most meaningful journeys are often those of self-discovery and personal growth.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's what makes this story so relatable, even for those of us who don't live at the North Pole. We all have our own unique talents and aspirations, and it's up to us to find the courage to pursue them.
Chapter 4. The firework mishap.
The North Pole was aglow with the vibrancy of preparation. Candy cane lampposts shimmered in the soft light of thousands of lanterns, their golden beams bouncing off the snow like glittering stardust. Every corner of the village buzzed with energy as elves, snowmen, and reindeer worked tirelessly to perfect every detail for the New Year's Eve celebration.
This description always reminds me of those classic holiday movies where every frame is filled with twinkling lights and festive cheer. It's almost as if the author is inviting us to step into that world and experience the magic firsthand.
It is, and it sets the stage for the inevitable contrast, the unexpected challenge that throws everything into disarray.
Yet even in this magical hive of activity, a moment of calamity was never far away. In the back corner of Santa's workshop, a small group of elves huddled around an enormous crate of fireworks. Each rocket was a marvel of artistry, wrapped in shimmering paper that changed color depending on the angle of the light.
Yet as Jingle, the workshop's resident worrier, inspected the batch, his pointy ears began twitching uncontrollably.
A clear sign that trouble was brewing.
"These are too warm."
Jingle exclaimed, his voice sharp with panic.
He pointed to a heat vent that had been inadvertently directed toward the crate. Fireworks can't be stored near heat.
Yeah.
What if they...
Oh.
The blast was not catastrophic, thankfully, but it was loud enough to send elves diving for cover and spark a shower of glitter and sparks into the air. The explosion turned the room into a kaleidoscope of color as shimmering confetti and glowing embers rained down like enchanted snowflakes.
Flurry, who had been practicing his New Year's countdown speech nearby, bolted upright. What was that?
He shouted, his stick arms flailing as he ran toward the source of the commotion. When he arrived, he found Jingle buried under a pile of soot-covered glitter, his hat knocked askew and his face a mask of frantic guilt.
Flurry.
Jingle wailed, brushing glitter from his cheeks. "The fireworks, they've been compromised."
Flurry's coal eyes widened as he surveyed the scene. The glitter was everywhere, coating every surface in a fine, sparkly dust. The crate of fireworks now stood half empty, and the remaining rockets looked worryingly scorched.
"Oh, no."
Flurry breathed, scratching his snowy head. Without the fireworks, how will we light up the sky at midnight?
The disaster quickly became the talk of the village. Within minutes, the central square was filled with elves, snowmen, and reindeer, all buzzing with concern. At the center of it all stood Sparkle, clipboard in hand, her green hat tipped at a no-nonsense angle.
We need a solution.
Sparkle said, her voice cutting through the noise. "The fireworks are a key part of the celebration. Without them, the midnight countdown will lose its magic."
What about using the glitter cannon instead?
Flurry suggested stepping forward. "It worked great during my speech practice. Well, after a little testing."
Sparkle considered the idea, tapping her pencil against her clipboard. The glitter cannon could work, but it's not designed for long bursts. We'd need to modify it.
And we'd still need something to replace the fireworks light show.
Jingle added, his ears twitching again. The glitter cannon makes snow sparkle, but it doesn't create light.
We could craft magical sparklers.
Twinkle chimed in, bounding up with her scarf trailing behind her. The ice crystal forest has all kinds of glowing crystals. We could use them to make something really spectacular.
The idea was met with enthusiasm, and a team was quickly assembled to gather the necessary materials. Flurry, Sparkle, and Twinkle volunteered to lead the expedition to the ice crystal forest.
Blizzard, still eager to prove himself after his earlier adventure, insisted on joining as well. The journey to the forest was as beautiful as it was treacherous. The group trudged through fields of untouched snow, their path lit by the soft glow of lanterns. Above them, the aurora shimmered in vibrant waves, its colors reflecting off the icy landscape.
"I love the ice crystal forest."
Kringle skipped ahead, her scarf flapping in the wind. "Everything there sparkles, just like me."
"Let's just hope it doesn't sparkle too much."
Sparkle muttered her eyes, scanning the horizon for any signs of trouble. "We need to get in and out quickly." As they entered the forest, the air seemed to change. The trees, made entirely of ice, stood like frozen sentinels, their branches glistening with frost. The sound of their footsteps echoed softly, as if the forest itself was listening.
"This place always feels alive."
Flurry whispered, his stick arms clutched tightly to his sides.
"That's because it is."
Sparkle replied. "The forest is enchanted. It's beautiful, but it can be unpredictable. Stay close." The group soon reached a clearing filled with glowing crystals. Each one pulsed faintly, their light shifting through shades of blue, green, and gold. The crystals hummed softly, a melody that seemed to resonate with the rhythm of the forest.
"These are perfect."
Twinkle exclaimed, grabbing a handful of smaller crystals. "They'll make the best sparklers ever." As the group worked together the crystals, Blizzard wandered a little too far from the clearing.
I think I see bigger ones over here.
He called his small antlers bobbing as he trotted toward a cluster of particularly bright crystals.
Blizzard, wait.
Sparkle shouted, but it was too late. Blizzard stepped on a patch of snow that wasn't snow at all. It was a frozen pond. The ice cracked under his weight, sending him sliding across the surface with a startled yelp.
Hold on, Blizzard, I got you.
Flurry rushed to the edge of the pond, his coal eyes wide with worry. Using his stick arms like grappling hooks, Flurry managed to pull Blizzard back to safety. The young reindeer's bell jingled wildly as he panted in relief.
Thanks, Flurry. I guess I got a little carried away.
Just stick close next time.
Flurry said with a grin. We've got enough excitement as it is. The group returned to the village with their haul of crystals, which the elves immediately set to work, crafting into magical sparklers. The workshop buzzed with activity as jars of shimmering, stardust, enchanted glues, and fine-tipped tools were brought out.
Meanwhile, Flurry helped Sparkle and Jingle modify the glitter cannon. They adjusted the nozzles, reinforced the gears, and added a special compartment to hold the sparklers. It was a delicate process, but with teamwork and a little trial and error, the contraption began to take shape.
This is going to be amazing,
Flurry said, stepping back to admire their work. The cannon now gleamed with a mixture of polished metal and glowing crystals, its design both functional and beautiful.
Let's just hope it holds together.
Jingle muttered his ears, twitching nervously. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the team prepared for a test run of the modified glitter cannon. A crowd gathered in the square, their breath visible in the frosty air as they waited in anticipation.
Flurry stepped up to the cannon, his stick hand resting on the lever.
Ready?
Ready! Sparkle called back, holding her clipboard like a field. With a dramatic flourish, Flurry pulled the lever. The cannon roared to life, sending a burst of sparkling snow and glowing light into the sky. The crowd gasped as the sparklers ignited their colorful trails, creating a dazzling display against the backdrop of the aurora.
It works.
Twinkle squealed, bouncing up and down with excitement. It really works. The crowd erupted into cheers, their joy echoing through the village. Flurry grinned, his snowy chest puffed with pride. For the first time, he felt like he was truly part of the magic. With the glitter cannon and sparklers ready, the New Year's Eve celebration was back on track. The mishap with the fireworks had turned into an opportunity for the North Pole to create something even more extraordinary. A reminder that even in the face of disaster, the magic of teamwork could light the way.
As Flurry looked up at the sky now filled with sparkling trails of light, he couldn't help but smile. Tomorrow the world would see the North Pole at its finest, and he was proud to play his part. Chapter 5, Countdown to Midnight.
The North Pole shimmered like a jewel against the velvety black sky of the village square, a kaleidoscope of twinkling lights and glowing decorations. Snowflakes illuminated by the golden lanterns strung between candy cane lampposts drifted lazily through the air.
I love how the author sets the scene for the grand finale. It's as if the entire North Pole is holding its breath, waiting for that magical moment when the old year ends and the new one begins.
It really does create a sense of anticipation, doesn't it? The square hummed with anticipation as the final preparations for the New Year's Eve celebration unfolded. In the center of it all stood the newly refurbished glitter cannon, its polished surface gleaming under the starlight. Around it, elves bustled about with tools and checklists, reindeer pranced in choreographed displays, and snowmen added the finishing touches to their festive scarves. It was a scene of organized chaos held together by the shared excitement of what the night would bring. The Talking Snowman choir gathered near the stage, their voices rising in a harmony that echoed through the square. Frostina stood at the front, her silver scarf catching the light as she conducted with graceful precision. Once more from the top, she instructed, her voice calm but firm. Remember, this is the moment we welcome the new year. Every note must shine like the northern lights. Flurry stood near the back, his snowy chest puffed with pride as he sang his part. He had come a long way from his shaky audition, and now his voice blended seamlessly with the others. Twinkle, standing beside him, gave him an encouraging nudge.
You're doing amazing.
She whispered, her pink scarf fluttering as she beamed. Flurry grinned, his confidence growing with each rehearsal. As the final note of the song rang out, the crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the village.
Perfect.
Frostina said, nodding in approval. Now let's get ready for the main event. The stage at the center of the square was a masterpiece of festive design. Draped in garlands of holly and shimmering lights, it stood as the focal point of the celebration. A large clock, its face carved from ice and illuminated from within, ticked steadily toward midnight.
Flurry climbed onto the stage, his stick arms trembling slightly as he held the candy cane microphone.
Toe.
He had been practicing his countdown speech all week, but the sight of the gathered crowd made his snowy knees wobble.
Don't worry.
Sparkle said, appearing beside him with her ever-present clipboard. "You've got this, Flurry. Just speak from the heart."
Flurry nodded, swallowing his nerves as he glanced out at the crowd. Snowmen, elves, reindeer, and even a few penguins had gathered, their faces alight with anticipation. The energy in the air was electric, a palpable buzz that made the snowy ground seem to hum beneath his feet. You know, this description always gives me chills. It's that sense of shared anticipation, of collective excitement, that makes these moments so special.
It is, and it's a testament to the author's skill at evoking emotion through language. Just as everything seemed to be running smoothly, a panicked shout rang out from near the glitter cannon. Jingle came sprinting across the square, his hat askew and his ears twitching wildly.
It's the glitter cannon.
He gasped, skidding to a halt in front of Sparkle. It stuck. The sparklers won't ignite.
What?
Sparkle's eyes widened as she flipped through her clipboard, as if the solution might be hidden among her notes. "We tested it earlier. It was working perfectly."
Jingle wrung his hands, his voice rising in pitch. Something must have jammed the mechanism if we can't fix it.
"We'll fix."
Flurry interrupted, stepping down from the stage. His coal-black eyes were determined as he grabbed Jingle by the shoulder. "Show me what's wrong." The group hurried to the glitter cannon, where a small crowd of elves had gathered, their tiny faces scrunched in worry. Flurry crouched beside the cannon, inspecting the gears and nozzles with an intensity that surprised even himself.
"Yeah."
He said, pointing to a cluster of crystals wedged in the main compartment. "The sparklers are stuck. We need to clear this out."
Jingle grabbed a pair of tongs, his hands shaking as he attempted to dislodge the blockage.
"It's too tight."
He wailed, his voice tinged with panic.
"Let me try."
Flurry said. Using his stick arms like levers, he carefully pried the crystals loose. As the final piece came free, the cannon let out a low hum, its internal mechanisms clicking back into place.
"Quick, test it."
Sparkle shouted, her clipboard clutched tightly to her chest. With a deep breath, Flurry pulled the lever. The cannon roared to life, sending a burst of sparkling snow and colorful lights into the air.
Twinkle squealed, bouncing up and down with excitement. It really works. The crowd erupted into cheers, their joy echoing through the village. Flurry grinned, his snowy chest puffed with pride. For the first time, he felt like he was truly part of the magic. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, the excitement in the square reached a fever pitch. Flurry returned to the stage, his candy cane microphone clutched tightly in his stick hands.
The crowd hushed as he stepped forward, their eyes shining with anticipation.
"Ladies and gentlemen, snowmen and reindeer."
For Flurry began, his voice steady and clear. "We've had a magical year here at the North Pole, and now it's time to welcome a new one. Are you ready to count down with me?"
The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing across the snowy landscape.
"All right."
Flurry said, glancing at the clock as the second hand ticked toward midnight. "Here we go. 10, 9, 8. The crowd joined in, their voices rising in unison. As the countdown reached its final seconds, Flurry's snowy heart swelled with pride. He had found his place, his voice, and his confidence, all in the span of one extraordinary night. At the stroke of midnight, Flurry pulled the lever on the glitter cannon. The sky exploded in a dazzling display of light and color, the sparklers creating patterns that seemed to dance with the aurora. Snowflakes sparkled as they fell, illuminated by the glow of the fireworks. The crowd cheered, their voices mingling with the music of the Talking Snowman Choir as they launched into their grand finale. Frostina's voice soared above the harmony, her silver scarf catching the light, and she conducted with an elegance that left the crowd spellbound.
Coalbeard's bass notes rumbled like the earth itself, while Twinkle's high-pitched trills added a sparkle that made the music shine. As the final note faded, Flurry stepped forward, his stick arms raised in triumph.
"Happy New Year, everyone!"
He shouted, his voice ringing out like a bell. The celebration continued long into the night with dancing laughter and plenty of cocoa. Flurry wandered through the crowd, his snowy cheeks glowing, as friends and strangers alike stopped to congratulate him.
"You were incredible,"
Sparkle said, appearing beside him with a mug of cocoa.
"I knew you had it in you."
Flurry smiled, his heart full. It wasn't just me. It was all of us, working together to make something magical. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, the North Pole was still buzzing with joy. The celebration had been a resounding success, a testament to the power of teamwork, determination, and a little bit of holiday magic. And that brings us to the end of the North Pole's New Year adventure, a heartwarming tale of friendship, perseverance, and the magic of the holiday season. Thanks for dropping by Kringle's Christmas Stories and have a very Merry Christmas. Remember to get your Comet's Choice reindeer food at cometschoice.com. Remember to follow, like, and share.